'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today I wanted to talk about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. A great anime, one of my favorites of last year, and you may be thinking, Dan, you made an entire video talking about your favorite anime of last year, why wasn't it on it? Well, a couple reasons. One, I knew I was going to make a video talking about it eventually, that being today, and I wanted to have a whole discussion talking about the show, its impact, and what it meant to me, and everything like that. And second, that's kind of another talking point here. Is it an anime? Is it not an anime? That's been a massive discussion in the anime community. So I want to start with that point before I talk about the show itself. So Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, absolutely amazing show, animated show. Let's just leave it at that right now. It is animated in Japan, right? It is intended for worldwide audiences, and that seems to be the sticking point a lot of people are trying to say is why it's not an anime, is because, well, it's intended for Western audiences. So I don't quite get why that's like the strong sticking point of like, that's our smoking gun, like that's it. Because to me, so does that exclude Star Wars Visions then? Does that exclude Batman Ninja? Does that exclude the upcoming Suicide Squad isekai? Like, where do we draw the line of things that are adapted from Western material that are animated in Japan, typically called anime? Why are those still considered anime and this one isn't? Is it because like it is intended to have a English voice cast immediately, but it still had Japanese voice cast day one? It's not like it only had English voice acting. So to me, it is an anime. It's one of the best of last year. It's a bit of a thing why I didn't put it on there as well. It's because My Anime List did not have it on their site. And them not having it on the site really is like a weird thing. Because like Star Wars Visions is on there, Batman Ninja. I'm sure the upcoming Suicide Squad thing is, but I don't really check out like upcoming shows as much. So it is an interesting thing that's like those are there, but this one is not. Why? Why are we drawing lines in here? I understand we have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, because, like, you didn't know, like, the original Transformers cartoon was made in Japan, animated in Japan mostly, so, like, that could be considered anime. It's a running joke between me and my friends that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the stop-motion classic, was animated in Japan, so that could technically be considered an anime because it's animated in Japan, and that's beginning, middle, end my entire argument of what anime is. That's it. There's not anything else more about where it is. There's obviously shows that take anime inspirations, whether that be Avatar or Teen Titans or even like Code Lyoko, like different countries, different cultures, but like a similar art style to what Japan was doing. But if it's animated in Japan, then it's anime. That's the be-all, end-all. So all that being said, what about the show? So I'm going to put a little bit of a spoiler warning right here. The show has a crazy twist in the first episode, and then it runs with it. So I'm going to spoil what that twist is, and then from there, I'm not going to really spoil anything. But if you have not seen the show, go check it out. It's on Netflix. If you like Scott Pilgrim, if you like action anime, if you like just fun, explosive shows, by all means, go check it out. But for those of you stuck around, so the end of the first episode, we all know, we're about to find out that Scott Pilgrim dies. Not like in the original story of the movies or the video game. I say original story, weirdly enough, I am a big Scott Pilgrim fan from the movie, and then I played the game, and then I've seen the anime. I've not actually read the graphic novels yet, but luckily for me that it's the 20th anniversary of these things, so they are coming out with a new 20th anniversary set, which is awesome. I do really want to get that, and I think that would be a great way for me to finally read this series I've been meaning to get to for a long time. But this show's first episode pretty much runs how the movie does. It's similar beats, similar story things, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, okay, there's 8 episodes in this. The first one ends with the first Evil X, Matthew Patel, and so there's going to be 8 episodes, so like 1 Evil X per, but like the twins are the same, and then there's Nega Scott for some of it, so that could be its own chapter, and then like the finale, I didn't know. The first episode ends with Matthew Patel winning the fight and not Scott Pilgrim, so it takes the entire conception of what the show is and just warps it. actually, for the entirety of the second episode, I was like, okay, when are we going to get back on track to what Scott Pilgrim is? It took me to like the third episode to be like, oh, we're not. This is the show. We're not like just gonna all of a sudden backtrack and then okay, now we go and fight Lucas Lee and go along the lines like that. We're taking the story and we're swapping it and doing something completely different to where we're learning more about Ramona. Ramona's the main character of the show, and I think that's a fantastic twist. Ramona is a character where in the games, obviously, it's a video game, so the characters are just like interpretations of what they are, I assume, in the graphic novels. But in the movie, I didn't love Ramona. She's probably the weakest part of the movie. I didn't feel a massive connection between her and Scott. In this anime, I do. I really feel like she cares a lot for this guy, and it's a wonderful tale about how she's trying and going through all her evil exes. She's the one fighting her evil exes in a way, and going through that. Those characters all get massive like depth to them all. Lucas Lee was my favorite in the movie, played wonderfully by Chris Evans. Like, all the voices come back. That's one of the coolest things about this, is every actor in the Edgar Wright film came back to voice their respective characters, which is awesome. It's so cool to hear that group of people together again. So awesome. And like someone like Chris Evans, who's a busy guy, not nearly as busy now that Captain America's done, but still pretty busy guy. Always showed up for like all the press stuff. He showed up for like the reunion script read. Like, he's always been around, and there are a lot of famous people in this film now show. He was definitely the biggest for a bit there, so him always coming back was awesome. So him being in this show is awesome. Lucas Lee continues to be my favorite of the evil exes. But all of them get really good depth to them. You really get to see more about their backstories and like who they are as people. There's of course nods to the movie, because why wouldn't there be, you know? I think that the Clash of Demon Head part, one of the coolest parts in the movie, that song Black Sheep, rules. The Brie Larson version absolutely kills it. They have a great homage to that in this show that I love that part. I've rewatched it. It's only like a little chunk, but it might be my favorite part of the entire show. There's some absolutely sick fights in this show. Of course, there would be, based on the material. There's so much to say without wanting to spoil. Of course, I spoiled a little bit. That was a spoiler warning before, but I still want people to watch this show and experience all the twists and turns without me just telling them. One of my best friends, he started the show. He didn't love the art style, which surprised me, because it's based on, it looks just like the graphic novel, so it looked really cool to me. He didn't like the art style, which, whatever, opinions. Stopped before the first episode did, because he's like, well, I don't like the art style, and I know the story, so what am I doing? And it's been so hard to try to convince him to keep going, because it's not the same story. It's like a sequel, but it's like the same story. I like this weird little trope of storytelling we're in recently, where remakes aren't just remakes. It's not the same story. It's the same characters and world, but it's something new. We saw this with like the Evangelion Rebuild films. We've seen this with the Final Fantasy VII remakes. Like, it's a cool thing that's happening, and I liked it a lot more than just remaking something. And Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which, clever name. Takes Off. We all kind of thought that it was like, all right, like he's gonna rise to the occasion, like he's gonna, I don't know, take out, like rocket to the top, like whatever. But no, he leaves. That's what Takes Off. It's Scott Pilgrim, see ya, like goodbye for most of the show. He takes off, you know? So, incredibly clever name for this thing, that when I caught on to like, oh, that's why it's called that, hilarious. Absolutely wonderful show that if you haven't seen, like I said, if you have Netflix, check it out. I think it's worth getting Netflix just to try this show out. Like, it's so good. And Netflix is getting more and more anime, so it's becoming one of those things where it's like we got Crunchyroll, and we used to have Funimation, but Crunchyroll and High Dive, and some things are going to Hulu now, and some things are coming to Netflix, so it's getting more and more spread out, but Netflix specifically is becoming a big player in this space, and this is a big, like, notch on their belt. Like, this is a good one. Without Netflix, I don't think this would have gotten made, so I can't even really be like, well, I wish it was on Crunchyroll, because, like, I don't think it would have existed without Netflix's help. But awesome show. I'm glad I finally got a chance to talk about it in depth with you guys. Have you seen the show? If not, why not? By all means, please let me know. And that'll about do it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. And as always, like this if you like this, subscribe when you haven't already. I will see you at some point.